Kuf Ein Tes. Way at the bottom. We went through, if you remember, 6 different forms of Lashon Hara, and we quickly finished the 6th last class. Now we continue on Kuf Ein Tes at the bottom. The sages of blessed memory said in Maseches Eruvin, not Eruvin, excuse me, Erchin. Tes Vav Amud Beis. Lashon Hara horeges shloisha v'nei adam. I mentioned this. Lashon Hara kills 3. Ha'imro, the one who speaks. V'makablo, the one who listens. V'oiso shenemar alav, the one who's being spoken of. V'makablo Lashon Hara al chaveroi, one who accepts Lashon Hara about someone else. Ne'nash yoser mimisha amro, is punished even more so than the one who actually speaks. So the one who listens and hears, accepts the Lashon Hara, is worse than the one who's speaking it. That's tough, huh? Those who speak Lashon Hara, you may not live with them in the same neighborhood. The more so, you may not sit with them and listen to their words. Lashon Hara is a bad thing.
Why is it if you listen is worse? Because the guy wouldn't say it if you listen, something like that. I learned that yesterday in Shabbos.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, yeah. That the one who's listening and accepts it is encouraging the one who speaks it.
Yeah. So then you have 2.
He's kind of encouraging.
Yeah, he closed it.
He's encouraging it to be spoken.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't listen, then the other person wouldn't speak it. So he's causing him to speak. Od yesh ra b'lashon hara, and further evil you have in lashon hara. Ki mesaper lashon hara al chaveroi as umizgaye. One who speaks lashon hara against his friend is haughty over him. V'yorei atzmo tzaddik be'einav. He makes it out as if he's righteous in his own eyes. Ki yachshov, because he thinks ploni osa kav v'kach. He tells a story about how he did that, making himself above that other person. V'ani lo asisi, and I don't do that. Nimtza shuhu mizgaye umachzik toivel atzmo. Right? Turns out that he's arrogantly attributing good to himself by putting the other person down. According to the severity of Lashon Hara, no matter what he speaks about this other person having done, he's worse for speaking Lashon Hara, because he said Lashon Hara is equal to these very serious mitzvahs. So he's making himself out as if, oh, did you hear what he did? As he's speaking Lashon Hara, he's worse than whatever that person did. Because we saw how bad Lashon Hara is. We saw how bad the transgression of Lashon Hara is, how severe it is compared to the 3 chaveros. Right? So he's saying, oh, did you see? He was Mechal Shabbos. You saw him eating non-kosher food. And telling him whatever he's going to say about him, what he's doing now as Lashon Hara is probably worse than whatever he's saying that other person did. If a person were to actually do a mitzvah and then attribute some goodness to himself for having done that mitzvah, that would be bad enough. And here he's attributing goodness to himself for doing the transgression. Right? If he went around advertising to everybody how he did such and such a mitzvah, that would be disgraceful. And here he's doing the same thing with a mitzvah. With an avera. He's doing the avera of Lashon Hara, and he's making himself out as if he's something good. Somebody speaks Lashon Hara about these folks. As onsho od yoser, his transgression is even worse. Because anyway, these people, the orphan and the widow, they are suffering, and he's causing greater suffering to their suffering. Somebody says to his friend, where's fire? Right? Somebody said, where can I find some fire? Oh, those folks, they're always cooking. You'll find fire over there, Lashon Hara. Because he's saying, they're fressers. They're eating meat, fish. Indulgent people, you'll find a fire over there. They're always making a barbecue. Lashon hara. Come see how careful a person has to be with Lashon hara. There's also what somebody mentioned here a few days ago. Remember, I think it was you. Didn't you mention something about avak Lashon hara? Yes, that was the dust. The dust of Lashon hara. Kagon Shamar Tishtaku mi ploni. Any rotzei lehodia ma sheni yodea boy. You're talking about Michael? Let's not get started about Michael. I have plenty of stories to tell about Michael. Yeah, that's Lashon hara. You're implying he's full of transgression. There are plenty of things that there would be some juicy material to speak to him about. Let's not start talking about, once they start talking about him, we'll never finish. That's why it's called avak Lashon hara. That's right. That's why it's called avak Lashon hara.
I don't want to talk about him.
Yeah.
You're taking it in a bad way. Why be taking it in a positive way?
No, you'll say.
I don't want to talk about it.
No, if the point is that you're saying he's impeccable and there's nothing to speak about, that's one thing. But if you're saying let's not talk about him, meaning the implication is, there's plenty what to talk about, but let's not do that.
Okay,
That's a Furthermore, he shouldn't even praise somebody else. Through speaking good about him, he'll come to harm him. Why? Perush. If he praises him in front of those who hate him, the one who doesn't like him and hears his praise will say, what are you talking about praising him for? How can you praise him when he does X, Y, and Z? So you've now caused him to speak Lashon hara. That's Lashon. So here, even praising a person is avak Lashon hara. If you praise a person, and sometimes people intentionally praise somebody in front of people who they know will respond negatively, and that's really the intention. Oh, he's a nice guy. And he looks around. Yeah, waiting for somebody to say, are you crazy? Him? A nice guy? Why? Why do you say that? And the guy's like innocently, why? Why do you say that? He's a nice guy, isn't he? And he's trying the guy out. Come on, don't get me starting on him. Why? What are you talking about? You know something I don't know? And he wants the guy to start talking. He wants people to start talking about him. He doesn't want to speak Lashon hara. He's just fishing it out of other people. That's avak Lashon hara. Somebody who praises somebody else in a loud voice from the morning, meaning very enthusiastically, he's actually cursing him. Why? Because there are going to be plenty of people who hear this praise and come to criticize him instead. But in front of people who like him, mutar, then you may do that. You may praise him. Tetanan, it says in Avos, Chamisha Talmidim Hayula l'Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. There were 5 Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And he would enumerate the praise of each of them. Remember? Eliezer, Zabur, Seed. Whenever he praised all of the different Talmidim in a nice way. How could he do that? It was among friends. That was okay. Or somebody speaks Lashon hara, kind of off the cuff. Not, kind of like in a joking manner. Klomar, he doesn't speak with hatred. That's what the pasuk was referring to when it says, Kemit lahaleha hayorei zikim chitzim v'maves. Kenishramu asreu v'amar halo misachani. Yeah, like an archer who shoots darts and arrows and causes death. So too is the mischievous person who cheats his friend, and he says, it's just a joke. Look, if a person makes a mistake, it can happen. It slipped. It could happen. So you want to minimize it. The truth is, you should say, you know what? That was Lashon Hara, and I shouldn't have said that. Yeah. That was Lashon Hara, and I shouldn't have said that. It's not true.
How do you take it back?
What is that?
That's the way to get out of it. Like.
Yeah. What, by saying I didn't really mean it, I was just joking?
Sort of.
Yeah, you could do that too.
That's the way I.
You could do that too. But it's too obvious. It's like, it's transparent.
There's no way to get out of it.
So that's why I think it's better to be honest.
Once it comes out, that's it.
Okay, well, what I said I shouldn't have said, and I really don't have any basis for having said that. It's probably not true. Even if you know it's true, if you shouldn't have said it, then you should deny it as being not true. You should probably lie and say it's not true. But if you're not allowed to have spoken that Lashon Hara, then you should probably deny it. But here we're not talking about that. Here we're talking about a person who's speaking intentionally, but he passes it off as if it's just a joke. So he wants to diminish the severity of how it looks.
That's right. That's what he's doing. Deep down, and he's trying to.
Yeah.
They shouldn't take it. It's not murder.
No, but I'm just saying that here he's talking about a person who is he's intentionally cloaking his Lashon Hara in what looks like an innocuous way by making a joke about it. Yeah, but he knows very well he's planting the seed in these people's minds, and he does want them to think badly about him. You're talking about a different scenario. It came out unmistakably, and now you want to diminish the severity of what you did. That's the difference. And so too, one who speaks Lashon Hara in an indirect way, in a misleading way. Somebody who's like speaking, innocently. Like he doesn't even know it's Lashon Hara. Ela shemochichim bo omer, eini yodea she'elu ma'asav shel ploni, o shezeu Lashon Hara. I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. Whoops. Open mouth, insert foot. Okay, scratch that from the record. Yeah, but it's false. He really did intend to say it. He's saying it in like an innocent way, and once the harm is done, he takes it back. Or he says, "Well, I didn't realize. Oof, wow, gosh, I guess I shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't I?
I'm thinking, I'm judging the Chav Zechus. He really didn't mean it.
Okay, there is that.
People are really want to kill someone with
Lashon
Hara.
Yeah.
I knew there are some people.
Yeah.
I don't come in that kind of-
No, you're a sweet guy. You're good. You wouldn't hurt a fly.
I'm not
No, you wouldn't hurt a fly. But we're not talking about that. Of course, it's true that it's true that if somebody were saying something, he could say, "Gosh, I didn't realize that was wrong. I really shouldn't have said it. I really didn't mean it." But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a person who intentionally and deceivingly makes himself out as if he is innocent. The tumah, that's called. Yeah, but this is called the tumo. The tumo. He's making it out as if he's innocent. It's really not what he intends, but he intends it, and od ech, he intends it. He intends it for sure. He intends it. But in order not to kind of undermine his own position, he passes off this Lashon Hara as if he really didn't mean it, and then afterwards he feigns. He says, "Oh gosh, I didn't. I guess I shouldn't have said that," but he certainly did mean it. So he got the job done. He got everybody thinking badly about this person without his looking like a Russia by saying it.
Right, even in the Garish world, it's kind of close. Like, it's a terrible thing to say in Russian, in politics and things like that.
Yeah, so people insinuate. Yeah. They all. Yeah.
Just saying bad things about a person.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is yes. Even in non-Jewish culture, it's to a certain extent where they don't have Hilchos Lashon Hara. It's still unacceptable to speak badly about people. In most scenarios, it's unacceptable, and people use this technique since it's considered to be socially unacceptable, but they still want to get the Lashon Hara out. They'll take the insidious approach of presenting themselves as if they didn't mean it, but they really did. And then afterwards, if they're questioned about it, they'll say, It wasn't I wasn't, I did that it was by mistake. It was a mistake. Hamasaper dvarim at the top of Kuf Pei Aleph. Hamasaper dvarim shegorim mehezik lechaver, one who speaks things that harm his friend. Hen begufo, hen b'mamono, whether it's physically or monetarily. Afilu lahatzerlo o lahafchido, even if it's just to cause him anguish or fear. Harezeh lashon hara, that's also lashon hara. V'omer davar lechaver, one who says something to someone else. Asur legalosoi b'lo reshuso. You may not reveal it else onward without his permission. Kol nema b'fnei shloisha. Azu k'mo yadu l'kol. We mentioned this the other day as well. Something which is said among 3 people, so that's considered as if it's something which is well known. Mim saper echad min hashloisha ein bo mishum lashon hara. If one of the 3 people that were present there went and said it onward further, so that would not be lashon hara. Why? Because it was revealed initially in front of 3. However, if when he tells it over, after hearing it in front of 3 people to other people, with the intention of making it more known, then that would be lashon hara, because you're not allowed to make it any bigger than it was. So if it was said in front of 3 people, we have to assume that it's public knowledge, and therefore you can let other people know. But as long as it's not your intention to promulgate it, you're just saying it to a person. Oh, by the way, I don't want you to tell this to others, but such and such a thing was said. If the person who said, listen, I'm going to tell you, but I want you all to promise me you're not going to tell this to anybody else. Even though it was said in front of 3 people, even though it was said in a multitude of people, no one is permitted to pass it further, because the person who said it makes a condition. You may not tell others. There was a certain story with one of the Talmidim. Who let the cat out of the bag, out of something that was in secret for 22 years. They kicked him out of the base of Medrash for revealing a secret that was said 22 years earlier. That's how serious they took keeping a secret. You have to keep it a secret for even 22 years. More in Sanhedrin. Lamed Aleph Amid Aleph. There's another transgression called Rechilus. Rechilus is tail-bearing. Who is a Rachel? Like one who goes from one person to another and says, Kachamar Ploni, he said such and such a thing. Or such and such I heard about somebody else. Like you're going and you're peddling your wares like a peddler. That's called a roichel, from place to place. Even though it's the truth. That brings destruction to the world. And we're warned against this, as it says, don't go tail-bearing among your people. What is considered this tail-bearing? He reveals to his friends things that were said about him in private. Betanya, minayin the dayan, the kashayetze, shelo ani mazake v'chaveri mechayevim. How do we know that when he leaves the court, he shouldn't say, I decide in the person's favor. The other judges were against him. He's trying to save his skin, saying he was okay. Don't go tail-bearing. But here the point is a dayan. A dayan should not say, so you have dayan, you have based in, and the decision goes according to the majority. So you got two out of 3 say this, and the other says that. So he shouldn't say, look, I decided in your favor. What can I do? Those did not. So you shouldn't do that. Based in has a decision which goes according to the majority, and that's the decision. You shouldn't afterwards say, I said like this and they said like that. Lashon hara. Rechilus.
Sometimes they cook.
I don't know. I mean, this needs a bit of a thought because it could be that there's nothing wrong with knowing what each opinion decided. The point here is the one person's trying to like clear his back
Yeah,
at the expense of the others.
it's a-
For example, yeah. Yizar b'chol me'od miloshen hara. Ki bazeh ata mevayesh atzmecha. You're actually embarrassing yourself. Ki kol ha'posel posel. Anybody who negates somebody else, he himself has that same fault. V'enu medaber b'shivcho shel olam. He never speak about anybody, praise about anybody. V'darko livsol v'nei odam b'mumoy. And it's the custom of people to shoot other people down for the same traits that he has. For example, oh gosh, he's so arrogant. He always has got to be number one. Yeah. So, Chazal are telling us that this person also has that tendency. That's why he notices it and he's so bothered by the other person. A puzzle, b'mum puzzle. Ki amum sheyesh bo hu munach kol yom b'libo kevan shu motzio. Since he points out, notices this shortcoming in others, it's a sign that it's with him in his own heart all of the time. Ki kol adam nivchan v'nikar b'masav. Every person is made known through his deeds. Ketzad im tirei adam shuhu rogel l'shabeach nashim v'ledaber mihen tamid. You have somebody always talking about women. Da'alecha shu ohev nashim. You should know that he has a preoccupation with women. And if he's always talking about food, that's what's on his mind. No, such a person is a fresser. And so too with everything. If he talks about politics, it's because he wants to be a politician. The proof is from the verse which says, Ma ahavti Torah secha. How I loved your Torah. Right? It is my conversation all day long. King David said that. David. That shows us what David was on David's mind. Torah, Torah, Torah. B'shul sheni oyev es Torah, because I love the Torah Kedosha. Lo'olam ani medaber bo. I'm always talking about it. You call davar shalom oyev miliboy. Just like that guy, he's always talking about baseball. My gosh. Whenever you're around him, he's talking about baseball. This team, and that team, and this game, and that game, and this stat, and that stat, and this, and the other. And my gosh. Can you talk about anything else? Like what? He says, well, what else is there to talk about? Talk about, baseball. Nothing else we're talking about. The Havdil, the Torah, that's how we should be with the Torah. Constantly talking Torah. Even if people say, gosh, this guy's always talking Torah. Can't he talk about something else? But it could be that sometimes when you're around people who can't deal with hearing Torah all the time, it would be appropriate to talk about, to change the subject from time to time. Particularly when you want to, encourage them and get them interested in Torah. Because if you overfeed them, you force feed them, that's not going to be any good. But even when talking about those other things, you could still find a way of incorporating some mention of God, some hashkafa issue of the Torah. Yes, the paragraph on Kuf Samech Beis, starting with the word Ba'al Halashon, Mechapes Mume V'nei Adam. He's constantly on the lookout for people's shortcomings. Vudome lizavuvim. He's like flies. Shem yanuchu la'olam al makoim halichluch. They're always landing on a dirty place. Isn't that disgusting? Im yesh ba'odam shchin, hazvuvim anichim es aguf, v'yeshu al shchin. If he's got some sore, the flies will leave his body and go landing on the sore. V'kachu ba lashon hara. So too is the one who speaks lashon hara. Maniach kol hatov ba'odam medaber bin hara. He leaves the good parts of a person and lands on, his tongue is always lapping up the bad. Maaseh b'adam echad, there was a story with one person. Shaholach im chacham b'sadeh, v'ra nevela chas. And he saw a nevela. It's a well-known parable. I believe it's brought in very early works. Amar chacham. So he says, Amar oisai adam, kama masrachas nevela zo. How disgusting that dead body is. A corpse, an animal. The wise man said, "Kama levanim shenea." Look how white the teeth are. In this way, the wise man, he reprimanded the other by saying, "Lama tomar ganai shelo." Why should you speak badly about it? Tomar shevach. You can actually find a good thing to say. Ki lo olam yisaber adam v'shivcho shel olam. Avoid speaking badly about things and people. You can. Reminds me of the famous story in the Gemara in Baba Basra, which talks about how King Herod came to rule over Judah. Herod is not a hero. Baba Basra, I believe. Beginning of Baba Basra. He was a slave, Herod. He was a slave. Yeah. He was a slave. It was Jewish. It was a slave of, yeah. Yeah. Sure.
He worked in the house of the
Chashmonaim.
20 years later.
It was an Eved Ivri. Yeah. I think so. Jewish slave, and of the Chashmonaim dynasty, and the Gemara says he set his eyes on a particular young woman of the Hashmonaim royal family, and he desired to be with her. So at some point there was a bas call, a voice came out of heaven saying, any servant who wants to rule his master should rebel now. Now's the time. So Herod heard this voice, encouraged by heaven. He went and he rebelled against his Hashmonaim masters, and he killed them all. He just left this one girl alive, the one who he had a desire for. Young girl. So when she realized his designs, that he really desired her, and the implication of the Gemara there is he felt that if he had some union with this girl, it would somehow give him kashrus. If he's married to the daughter of the Hashmonaim dynasty, then he must have been of proper royal blood, pedigree, a proper full-fledged Jew, even though he was a slave. So when she got wind of this fact, the Gemara says she climbed up on the roof of the house, and she said, from now on, if anybody who says they are a remnant or a descendant of the Hashmonaim, he's either lying or he's an Eved. He's a servant. And at that point, she threw herself off the roof and she died. She killed herself. One second. She killed herself. So she meant to say that she's the last Hashmonaim. She's the last remaining Hashmonaim. And if anybody who says otherwise, then they're lying or they're fake. So the Gemara says there that Herod took the body and he submerged it in honey. Honey. He preserved the body in honey. And two opinions in the Gemara what he wanted to do with that body. According to one opinion, he actually performed what's that called? Having relations with a dead body. There's a special word for that. It's not necromancy. It's called.
He wanted to say that he had children from her.
Okay, I'm just saying. The Gemara says that according to one opinion, once she died, he could have just disposed of her. But what he did was he preserved her body in honey. According to one opinion of the Gemara, he did so in order to have relations with her. And according to another opinion, he did that in order to say that he actually was married to her at one time. The proof is that he still has the body. And since he preserved the body to show that he had it and therefore made the claim that she was married to him, in this way he intended to get his kosher, his hekshir. Because people say, oh, here, if he's got the daughter of the prince, if he got the daughter, if he got the body of the princess of the Hashmonaim, then he must have been married to her. Otherwise, how would he have the body? And if he was married to her, he's kosher. In any case, he was not kosher at all. And he said he was very upset about that. And he said, who is it who's saying that I'm not kosher among the Jewish people? It's the sages, the Jewish sages, the rabbis of the Talmud, who darshan the pasuk that say, right? Im tosim alecha melech. If you're going to put upon yourselves a king, it must be from your brethren you should place upon yourself a king. And the sages say, not is it referring to somebody who is Jewish as opposed to not Jewish, but even a Jew, it has to be somebody who's free and not an Eved. And therefore, it's Chazal, the sages of the Talmud, who are preventing me from ruling. And therefore he made a decision, I'm going to kill them all. Which he did. He killed all of the Jewish sages. Except for one. Yeah. Ben Buta. So he kept him alive. We're going to take advice from him. But no, he I don't think so. What I know in the Gemara. Yeah. Maybe that's part of, I'm just referring to the Gemara Baba Basra. I don't think it's there in the Gemara Baba Basra. It could be elsewhere. The Gemara Baba Basra said that he blindfolded him with porcupine, with the skin of a porcupine, turning the pines inward. So he was blinded. He was blinded. One day, Herod started feeling bad about what he did. I don't know. I guess he wanted to test the loyalty of Ben Buta. So he found Ben Buta blind, sitting somewhere in the city, and he came and he sat next to him and started speaking to him, hiding the fact that it was actually King Herod. And he said, what are we going to do about that slave who's taking control? So, yeah. So Ben Buta said, well, what do you want from me? What can I do about it? So Herod said to him, curse him. So they went through this, so Ben Buta wouldn't curse him. Yeah. So
no one's here.
yeah, they went through this whole kind of discussion. Herod is trying to encourage him to curse him, and he wouldn't curse him. Finally he says, he says, no, I'm not going to curse him. I don't want to speak any evil.
Window carrier, the walls were here.
Yeah, right. Right. Finally he realized he couldn't draw Ben Buta into a situation of speaking evil. So he came to regret. He came to regret having killed all the sages. He said, if I knew the sages were so holy, then I wouldn't have killed them like this. So he said, out of remorse, he said to Ben Buta, I'm actually Herod. What do I do now? I feel like remorse for what I've done. So the Gemara says, you extinguished the light of the world, like it says, mitzvah Torah or. So, the sages are Torah, you've extinguished the light of the world. So you shall rebuild the Beis Hamikdash, which is also considered to be or, like it says, Naharu el Goyim, something like that. It will give light to the nations, the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah, light out, yeah. Very good. So you see here then this, the great extent to which Ben Buta.
He built the upper layer of today what we see, the upper part of the coastal. That top part is all around.
Yeah, King Herod's building. Yeah.
Castle.
Look where it says, Mishalo Binyan Herod. Yeah, Losa Binyan Noe Beyomav. Whoever didn't see the temple that Herod built has never seen a beautiful building in his days. Beautiful building. But you see, it wasn't actually predicated and founded on the most ideal of circumstances. In any case, this is the inyan of guarding one's mouth from speaking evil. Even if you can find something very nasty to say, it's always better to try and find the good thing to say. All right, so let's conclude here. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good story to incorporate. Okay. All right, so let's end here.